Do you remember the moment that you fell in love with street photography? Maybe for you, it wasn't a moment, it was more of a slow realization, but for me and for a lot of us, it was instantaneous and it was meta. It was a decisive moment, if you will. Maybe it's an actual shutter release moment, a glance at the back of the camera moment to see what you captured. Maybe it was better than you expected and it gave you a rush of emotion. Maybe you were shuffling through photos later in Lightroom and then you were struck by something you didn't even mean to capture, a happy accident that struck you in a visceral way. Or maybe it was someone else's capture that stunned you. Maybe it moved you, literally moved you off of your couch. Out the front door, and if not to try to duplicate, certainly to try to recreate in some way what you saw and the emotions you experienced. And when you finally did make that capture you were longing for, put a lot of effort into, it was probably accompanied by a rush of chemicals somewhere in your mesolimbic system, that natural, healthy chemical desire for more. Then when others saw it and appreciated what you managed to capture, maybe those feelings came back again. It was sort of a two-sided experience akin to a separated Oreo cookie where the enjoyment of the capture is then echoed by the enjoyment that you experience by someone viewing it. Those feelings reinforced your decision to take part in street photography, and it was enough to get you through that fear that accompanied it, that fear of somebody seeing you and thinking you're strange for pointing a camera in their general direction. And it probably kept you braving those same streets with a very real possibility of a robbery or violence happening to you. And in fact, in many ways, that fear, and dare I say the adrenaline that came with it, was just another hook that kept you going. If you're anything like me, it caused you to schedule flights just a little bit sooner or a little bit later to that city that you were visiting for work or for family, to extend that lunch break a little longer, to get off work just a little bit sooner, to eke out every possible second in hopes to capture even just one image that would do for you what that first capture did. But in less than 2 years, we have seen two technologies come along that threaten this whole genre in a very existential way. Now, I just spent some time with you trying to bring up emotions and feelings within you of the joy of that decisive moment, the times when you have basked in the ecstasy of photography. You've felt it, I know you have, or you wouldn't be here watching this. And I want you to reflect on those feelings for just a moment. You're seeing some images here now. These images that I'm showing you currently, the past few seconds, these are unique. They weren't taken by me. Ones at the very beginning of the video, yes, those were mine, but these weren't taken by anyone. They were created by AI under my direction this morning. Now, how do you feel as I tell you this? For me, and I can tell you that I felt this all morning while I spent time in Midjourney with prompts to try to get AI to come up with something I felt looked pretty good. I felt icky. I felt like a cheat, like a liar. Like just the fact that I'm putting them in this video will receive and be deserving of shame and backlash. And maybe you knew it. Maybe the second I started showing you these images created by AI, you were able to pick up on that and recognize it. But I'm willing to bet many of you didn't. And either way, even those hawk-eyed observers of you that did, even you won't be able to tell the difference soon as this technology improves. So what does that mean for street photography? What does it mean for the aspiring Craig Whiteheads, Ernst Sanses, Siegfried Hansens of the world? Is that deflating? Is street photography like this suddenly irrelevant and meaningless? We'll come back to that. But first, we need to talk about the second technology that threatens to destroy street photography as we know it. But even before that, before we go into the second technology, I do want to talk to you about the gracious sponsor of this video, KEH. This is my new Nikon ZF, which is my new favorite camera for street and documentary photography, as well as just for video and everything else. But if you know me, you know that it's the third camera I've owned in 6 months that I said was going to be my new camera. Yes, I have issues, I know this, but I also know that a lot of you, you have the same issues, which is why I want to introduce you to KEH, if you haven't heard of them, which is the perfect partner for those of us who cycle through gear a lot. Because I just invested in a new system and because I sold my old gear to KEH already, my Fuji and Canon stuff, I need some new lenses to round out my capabilities as a photographer, as a videographer, and I love KEH for that, and specifically for 3 reasons. 1, the price. I can get great quality gear which has been vetted, tested, and cleaned by some of the industry's top experts to ensure that I know exactly what I'm getting. 2, I can choose the condition of the gear relative to my budget. And 3, peace of mind with that 180-day return warranty. After years of working with KEH, they are exclusively who I go to for pre-owned gear and who I absolutely recommend to you to go to for street photography gear and everything else. Whether it's a fancy new Sony device or something classic like a Leica M2 or a Fuji X100 series device, they've got street photography devices for whatever your taste, and they're gonna do it on whatever budget you have. If you want a discount on your first purchase or your first sale for that matter of your gear to KEH, I have links below. Thanks KEH for sponsoring this video. Now to the second new technology that threatens street photography as we know it, and one that I haven't heard really a lot of talk about as it relates to street photography at least, but which is truly relevant, and that's the advent of the global shutter. Now, most of you know about the new Sony A9 III and its global shutter technology. This seemed to many of us years ago only a sci-fi dream, this idea that the whole sensor could instantaneously capture the whole reflected image at once rather than individual megapixels in succession. Most people who care about this development are action, sports, wildlife videographers who are stoked about never having to worry about distortion that is created by rolling shutter. This is completely revolutionary. But for the rest of us, portrait, landscape, editorial photographers, we shrug our shoulders and think maybe this doesn't seem to matter too much for us. After all this new development really does is make it so you can capture incredibly high resolution photos at a bazillion frames per second, making it practically indecipherable between insanely high quality stills and video without any rolling shutter. But what no one seems to be talking about is what that means for the decisive moment. Picture yourself on the street again, but instead of rocking your Leica M8, your Fuji X100V, your Ricoh GR to, let's say you have a new Sony A9 III, or any of the new cameras that will soon be rolling out with global shutter. Sure, you're sacrificing that tactile experience and painting a larger target on your head for that matter for potential robbery, but what you get is this remarkable technology. Picture seeing that reflection of a silhouette of a person juxtaposed amazingly on this ironic advertisement or whatever it is, that absolutely perfect shot to add to your already impressive Instagram wall. But instead of attempting to capture that exact perfect, decisive, precise moment, you bring the camera up and push the shutter approximately, vaguely, the correct time to get maybe the right shot, but you're more concerned with the composition and just aiming the camera in the right place because you know the moment matters less with this new technology. Then you scroll through hundreds of extremely high resolution shots that happened before you even pushed the button, and then hundreds after as well. That's a feature that this camera has. And you find that exact perfect moment where you didn't have to worry about it at the scene. Or, for that matter, just forget about the shutter button. Let's just put a couple 2 terabyte SD cards in and just shoot video. We'll just walk around with video rolling. And then later, when we get back to the computer, we'll pull out that single 20 megapixel or whatever frame that has no rolling shutter, that is high quality, maybe not raw, but soon probably will be. And then we've got our photo, and no one will be the wiser that we didn't capture that decisive moment. It's like fishing with dynamite. Is this cheating? Is this even street photography? Is this end result that we're getting through this new process, is that all that matters? Will anyone know or care that it wasn't done decisively? For non-street photographers, there's no problem here, only upside. For instance, for me as an event photographer and a videographer, sometimes I find myself capturing both. I'm doing double duty. How amazing is it that I no longer need to decide whether to capture that first look or that kiss over the altar in photo or video? I can do them both at the same time. Or as a parent, not having to make that difficult call of capturing that 3-year-old blowing out their birthday cake. Do we do that as high quality stills, beautiful footage? There's been times where I've had my camera up and a phone to try to capture both, I don't have to make that decision anymore, and that's pretty amazing. These are exciting developments to everyone else, but what does it mean for the genre of street photography? But friends, I have good news. As your time-traveling YouTuber friend, I have seen the future, and I can tell you with 100% confidence that neither AI nor global shutter will threaten the genre of street photography, because the world will end in 2025. Just kidding. Probably. See, what I've done here is I've set you up to think about street photography the wrong way. When we think about street photography, a lot of us do think about classical street photography, Magnum style, or Henri Cartier-Bresson or Vivian Maier, where all we have is the end results. We don't have the footage or documentary of the process that these folks underwent to make their absolutely incredible captures. But that style, that type of street photography, it's already gone. That's dead. That's not what street photography is anymore today as a genre, as a thriving genre that we pay attention to. We will never have that genre of documentary photography again. So new technology isn't going to threaten it. It's already dead. Instead, what we have is, well, just think about the street photographers that you know and love and follow, and the stuff that you consume. There are two types. The first type is the hobbyist, the editorial street photographer, the one that is after the slice of life, the moments that haven't happened until the shutter is taken, that will never happen again until after that moment is taken in actual streets. These type of street photographers don't just produce photos. We follow them for more than just their photos. There is a host of other stuff that comes along with it. We're talking about interviews, videos, stories, instruction, photo walks. I don't follow any street photographer who doesn't talk in great detail about their work and who doesn't teach it in some way. They all tend to care about the art form so much that they tell people about it. And they bring them along in some way, in different ways. Some of my favorite photographers I have found through their Instagram or articles in the newspaper somewhere. I found them because of their YouTube channel. And there's no way to fake that. Some have tried to fake street photography or art through AI, either nefariously, or in the case of the artist Boris Eldikson, to prove a point. But this style of street photography is going to thrive and continue for the same reason that my sons still fish. It would be cheaper, it would be a better use of time to drive to the store to buy fish. But these kids spend hours sitting at the edge of a pond, getting bit by mosquitoes and sometimes catching nothing, but always coming home with grins on their faces, mud on their shoes, and memories, and an anxious desire to go back as soon as possible. The same reason that you will with street photography. The joy of the result is set up by the effort of the process. It's the same reason I felt icky by just jumping straight to the end results with AI. Sure, AI can come up with some absolutely stunning results, but without any of that effort, the dopamine released at the end feels nefarious, it's fake, it's undeserved. And with dozens of photos that look award-winning and potentially stunning, I don't have any of the elbow grease, the stories, the knowledge to pass on to those who want to come with me, to have some of those literal street smarts rubbed off on them. I haven't earned any of that expertise as a result. I won't earn any meaningful followers in my street photography career, and I won't create any real meaning. The second type of street photography is more of what we should probably term photojournalism, actually. And for those folks, AI obviously can't take the place of being at a certain place and time documenting an occurrence. That should just be obvious. Will global shutter make a difference for these folks? I would assume so. I can't imagine not taking advantage of every technology made available to do a job, but I'm not a photojournalist. Either way, we're gonna always need people at the front of a mob, in a war zone, at the press conference. And what we probably will need to worry more about than the photos being fake, although that's certainly a concern to a degree, is the content of their reporting. But that's a different subject. But that's all I have for you today. Go out, enjoy street photography with the knowledge in your heart that it's not going anywhere as long as the world is here. Remember to do good with your camera, and we'll talk to you again real soon.